Hello, Galaxy. I'm Chris Perillo, and I just waved. You can't see me right now, but this video is all about the photos taken with the iPhone 7 Plus and the iPhone 8 Plus. You're always going to see the iPhone 7 Plus photos taken on the left, where Boba Fett is currently standing, the figurine that's in the foreground, if you're not familiar with who Boba Fett is. And on the right, it's always going to be the photos taken with the iPhone 8 Plus. So right now, you see a whole bunch of out-of-focus characters right now because depth of field. So I'm just going to step you through everything here. I'm screencasting on the new iOS 11e iPad Pro, and so you're seeing the video recording in its native aspect ratio as well as the photos in their native aspect ratio and resolution. None of these photos were touched. But I have to mention that because I have the ability to move this slider around, including the little chiclet, to better indicate where you may want to pay attention if I happen to be pointing out a certain area of the image. I'm just using an app. I found an app that would allow me to do this, and so it's super easy, and since I hate video editing and production, this is the best I can do. If you see any video artifacting, hopefully it will clear up relatively quickly as we're able to move through the series of photos that I took today, starting at about 8 a.m. and going till nighttime, whenever that was, a few hours ago. Been up for a while. So I took this shot in HDR on both cameras. Each time that we're doing a comparison here, I pretty much had the same settings on each camera and was able to verify with the EXIF headers to make sure that I had the right one placed in the right position for this demonstration. But I will tell you that more often than not, and I would say pretty much all the time, the HDR shots on the iPhone 8 Plus camera came out sharper and also more vibrant. Like the colors were truer to life. And this was really prevalent when I took a look at the shots side by side, did my best to get the angle pretty close. But if you can't tell that this character is popping with the iPhone 8 Plus, you may need to recalibrate your screen. If not that, then take a look at the brown wallpaper. I'm sorry, wallpaper. The brown paint on the wall behind Boba Fett. It's definitely a lot more rich in the iPhone 8 Plus camera versus the iPhone 7 Plus camera. And it's, I'd say, slightly more true to life on the iPhone 8 camera, the yellow paint that you see behind this particular character, Wicket, standing atop the vintage Ewok village. Everything else, I would say, was a wash. Hera looks the same at this distance and at this focal point or level on either the iPhone 8 camera or the iPhone 7. And when I say 7 versus 8, understand I'm always talking about Plus, because those are the only two iPhones that I'm currently using in this particular demonstration. So yeah, this is very indicative of a lot of the shots that you're going to see in this particular video. The shots on the 8 are sharper and more vibrant. So I'm going to do my best to scroll to the next one. Normally, I would never take this shot, but I was just curious, right? And so I think you can see some other dramatic differences between the two using the effective slow sync flash on the iPhone 8 Plus camera. Everybody gets that. It's a freebie. It comes with it. There's nothing to toggle, which basically enables you to fire the flash at lower shutter speeds, making for a better photo for the most part. And I would say that take a look at the brown throughout the image, and it's more natural on the iPhone 8 image than it is on the iPhone 7 image. Like even the vehicles themselves, the Imperial Walker here, it's a lot more true to life silver in the iPhone 8 Plus picture than it is on the iPhone 7 Plus picture, which kind of has a yellow tint to it. Stood at the same distance and everything. I would never save this shot at all. I was just curious. I was standing there. I'm like, well, let's see what happens. But even the cloud car here, this orange vehicle, the orange pops on the iPhone 8 picture versus the iPhone 7 picture, which is definitely a lot more dull. The Chicken Walker, the Scout Walker, looks better in the iPhone 8 than it does in the iPhone 7. So pretty much throughout the entire image. And again, look at the paint differences between the 7 and the 8. And I would say that if you were standing in the room and looked at the shot, you would say that the 8 was closer to the hues that were, I guess, being recorded with these particular photos. So I think it did a pretty outstanding job despite being so close with the camera. Some of the details on the 7 here on this little vehicle up front down here, sorry if you can't really see the chiclet, they were blown out a bit with the iPhone 7 camera versus the iPhone 8 camera. Not as much blowout in the lighter areas. I was surprised that I really didn't see too many, if any, overexposed areas standing this close, with the iPhone 8 camera, as much as I did here with the iPhone 7 camera, including on this little mini rig as well, if you know what that is at all. Moving on. Okay, this was definitely a lot more dramatic. So, didn't use a flash. This is just an indoor shot, daytime. There's daylight flooding the room, but certainly not a bright room, not saturated with light. But the differences are pretty stark. You can look pretty much at any one of these 3PO figurines or heads and see very clearly that the photo taken with the iPhone 8 Plus showcases a much more goldenrod. The colors are definitely muted on the iPhone 7 camera versus the iPhone 8 camera. And you can see even sharpness differences, or you should be able to see sharpness differences. One area where I definitely saw sharpness differences is with this particular 3PO with the red arm. You may not recognize him, but he's definitely sharper, everything's sharper in the iPhone 8 camera. I don't believe this was HDR, though. I think this was just a regular old shot that I took, which normally I would probably just take it in HDR just because I know there's a lot of reflectivity in 3PO. But the wind-up toy in the back, it's a way more accurate color in the iPhone 8 Plus. Another thing I did want to point out, down in this corner, the little cereal prize from last year's The Force Awakens, there's a 3PO, and you can actually, if you can get this close to the screen, the text is legible, so you can actually read the text on the iPhone 8 picture versus the 7 picture. It's a little more muddy. This is an issue I had with the 7 Plus and the 7 cameras last year. If you remember me kind of throwing up a fuss, I found that a lot of details on the corners of this iPhone 7 and the iPhone 7 Plus camera were rather nasty, especially even in comparison to the 6S. I thought the 6S in many cases took better shots than the 7 or the 7 Plus camera. Can't say the same with the iPhone 8 or the iPhone 8 Plus camera, the only one that I've really had an experience with, because for the most part, minus very few exceptions, the iPhone 8 or the iPhone 8 Plus camera has been rather astounding. I really, really appreciate the level of detail and sharpness and color and clarity in just about every shot. Not every shot, as you will see. But I thought this was a quite representative of, highlighting just how much more vibrant the same shot can be comparing the iPhone 7 to the iPhone 8. Moving on. All right. Back to toy photography. So this is an area, I guess an angle or shot that I actually like the 7 Plus camera, or the lens, the shot, the photo, a little more than the 8 Plus. And pretty much for one reason and one reason alone, especially when I was outside trying to pick up, whether or not I got the shot that I was looking for. The way that the iPhone 7 Plus processes HDR shots, these are both HDR, it showed me a greater level of, I guess, medium balance, specifically with the Stormtrooper's eye, this eye here. I could see it pop a little more, no pun intended. It's a Funko Pop vinyl toy, collectible. I can see it pop more on the iPhone 7 Plus shot, more so than the 8. The 8's definitely darker, to my eye, even sitting here now. That said, if you take a look at this particular area of the helmet, you'll notice that the reds are far more red. The reds pop even against the green background, and they're a bit more dull on the iPhone 7 Plus camera. So reds, I wouldn't say are as accurate as they could be on the 7 Plus camera, though I did appreciate, I guess moving towards the middle of the spectrum to better be able to highlight some of those darker areas. And this will be, I'll point to another example here in a bit. I think the 8 shot is far more satisfying because of the saturation of the red. I mean, it's strong. Even the grass behind the stormtrooper, you can see that it is more vibrant. So it's like, someone just splashed a magic wand over this photo and made everything pop. Again, no filters on my end. This is just the raw photos themselves. But yeah, this is definitely one of those shots that I would want to keep. Took a few shots that I'd want to keep, not all of them, but this is a good one. C-3PO standing there on a wicker chair thing. And, originally I was like, well, what can I take a picture of that's got a pretty decent level of detail? And I grabbed it, and I think I did a good job with this particular figure, because the detail work in his wiring, it shows up, and I don't know how well the screen recording is going to do. Most of the shot is out of focus, depth of field. I focused primarily, my focal point was pretty much the bridge of his nose up here on his helmet. But the wires are far more sharp and defined in the iPhone 8 Plus photo compared to the 7 Plus photo here. And it's a very subtle difference, but if you could see it and you're not able to see it the way I do, just take my word for it. It's a lot more sharp and defined on the iPhone 8 Plus camera. The one thing I guess that would be disappointing is the chest wasn't the focal point. I tried to use the bridge of 3PO's nose for the focal point. I don't know if that'd make much of a difference if they're relatively on the same plane of focus, but it's certainly indicative of the type of photos that I've taken elsewhere in terms of the differences between the 7 Plus and the 8 Plus. So I would definitely be happier with the 7 Plus photo were I to keep this image. This is a shot that really doesn't have much of a difference. So I grabbed a little Lego Vader, and you can't really see much of a difference here. I used a fill flash just to see what would happen, see if I could detect any differences. And if I did, they're very subtle. Very, very subtle. You can see a lot of the dust collecting on the Vader helmet, but it's like there's a yellowish tint to the iPhone 7 Plus photo versus the 8 Plus, and it's like the difference between the two is like right now someone has placed an onion skin over the lens, and then someone lifts it away. So I would say that again, everything in the iPhone 7 Plus photo is a bit more muted and unnatural compared to the iPhone 8 Plus. This is again, very difficult to perceive the differences outright, but very, very minute differences. But for the most part, I would say that the iPhone 8 Plus once again took a more natural shot. I'm not sure if I really could see a lot of differences between these particular pictures, and you'll have to forgive me in doing this video now, because Seattle's about to undergo another amazing autumn. I love autumn. It's my favorite season of all time. I have taken tons of autumnal shots over the years. If I did pick out any differences between these two, and you could look at one and say, wow, that's pretty cool, and then you could look at the other one, that's pretty cool. Yeah, it does seem that the photo taken with the iPhone 8 Plus is a bit more, a bit darker. The iPhone 7 definitely, or the iPhone 7 Plus definitely kind of pops a bit more in terms of it's a little brighter. But I think that the color of the sky is unnatural, like especially when you're talking in the lower left-hand corner here. You're talking a very bright-ish blue versus the more natural color of the sky. So just take a look at the sky. And you'll see it get, dramatically different as we move further over here. So I think the balance of the sky was better done on the iPhone 8. I could always, change that in post. Not that I would outright. Another difference between the two, and I think my focal point was, somewhere around here with these leaves. The leaves taken in this particular area on the 7 Plus or the 8 Plus here, they're a bit sharper on the 8 Plus versus the 7. 7, you start losing some amount of detail. It gets like really muddy in here, but on the 8 Plus up here, it's not as muddy. It's pretty sharp, but that's been true to form, throughout this entire experience. But those are the two things that I would point out: the color of the sky being more natural here, and we're talking. This is about noontime, high noon, right there. So the sun, if anything, would have been, onto the right side, cast